These dots here, right? Everyone is at home. You're surfing the internet. You're watching videos. And what else you doing? You're fixing up your house, right? So when we talk about Home Depot and Lowe's, this is a pretty easy one to connect the dots. There's a Home Depot near my house, and every time I drive by there, not very often, but when I do, the parking lot is full with people working on their house. Megan, tell us what your data is showing us.
Yeah, so this week and really last week, since this coronavirus has emerged and really forced consumers to shift how they're behaving and shift their activities, we're listening for what are they doing instead, right? And so what we saw popping, especially last week, as these discovery mentions, like you mentioned, as people are being captive in their homes, they're searching, and all of a sudden that leaky faucet is more than just an annoyance, right? They want to figure out, they're like, okay, I'm going to tackle this. I'm going to hit some repairs. I'm going to maybe, start thinking about ideas to redo my kitchen. So this chart that you're looking at now, these are mentions of consumers who are talking about home renovation ideas, right? Because they're in their house and now all of a sudden they're noticing everything and they have time to fill and they're saying, okay, what can I do and how can I fill this time? So we're seeing this translate, like you mentioned, it's not hard to connect the dots to names like Home Depot and Lowe's and even Wayfair as people start to, approach how they're going to set up their new home office since we have so many people working from home. So, it's really interesting to watch, where consumers are spending their time now that they can't really do what they want to do. This is what they're thinking about and this is what they're talking about.
Yeah, Megan, these poor people walking around their homes going, hey, where did that crack come from? How long has that crack been there? Or when did this floor show up? All the things that you can make a mental list on how you need to fix your home is all coming to fruition right now. And Home Depot and Lowe's have to be the beneficiaries of that as people get bored. If you're in your house for 23 hours a day, there's a lot of little flaws in your home that you can notice over that time period, Megan.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And when we look at Home Depot and Lowe's, the purchase intent data for both of those companies it's absolutely rocketing. I think this last weekend are some of the highest levels of purchase intent that we've ever recorded for the companies. When you look at who's doing better, Home Depot or Lowe's, both of them are absolutely surging, right? You have purchase intent increasing significantly. You've got Home Depot. These are mentions of people who are shopping at Home Depot or shopping with Home Depot, whether they're actually going into the store or searching online. And it's pacing about 86% growth year over year. That's insane. For comparison, I believe Lowe's is around 68% year over year growth, or 69. There you go. And so this is something that both are obviously accelerating. Both are experiencing the surge in demand. But, from a perspective of if you have to look at who's experiencing more, it's probably Home Depot, according to our data. We also note that Home Depot, from a sentiment perspective, I think it's about 65% positive when we look at those tweets, and Lowe's is around 62% positive. But even as we've seen this surge in demand for these companies, we're not really seeing sentiment drop, or if anything, sentiments, it's remaining fairly stable. And sometimes when you see these huge increases, you see a little bit of a drop in sentiment just with more interaction. And so this is, I think, really promising for Home Depots and Lowe's moving forward.
Yeah, Megan, you made a really good point on, we talk a lot on this show about relationships between Home Depot and Lowe's, between Nike and Under Armour, and between all these, leaders in the space and their competitors. And this might not be the time for someone to switch to one of the competitors. You're going to use this opportunity and go with your favorite and who you normally go to. So do you see Home Depot holding, if not gaining, some room? Or is Marvin Ellison, a Home Depot alumni running Lowe's now, gaining any traction? Are you seeing any convergence in their numbers?
That's a really good question. I think thus far we're seeing Home Depot kind of maintain that lead, at least from a regular consumer perspective, right? Our data, we don't have much insight into the professional side of things and larger scale contractor type of projects. But from just a regular consumer like me or you, it does seem to be that Home Depot is growth is a little bit steeper than Lowe's, but right now, both are definitely benefiting from this captive audience of people who are ready to start spring projects, are ready to take on some things, and are trying to get creative with different things that they can do inside their home.
And Megan, let's face it, there's a weather component in this, isn't there?
Yes.
You're moving it as the Midwest, which you live in the Midwest, close. I live in the Midwest. Yes. Spring is coming and weather's getting a little better. And so outdoor jobs and jobs around the house are starting to pick up pace as it gets a little warmer weather in our area of the world. So that could be another thing that adds, because as you know, President Trump just may have extended that stay-at-home idea till the end of April now. So this is something with these two firms that could last a while. This could be, quarters for these two firms that have to be redefined in terms of success.
Yeah, I think you're right. The levels of demand and the level of mentions that we're seeing is really unprecedented for both of these names. If you look at a quarterly bar chart of what the pace is, it just dwarfs every other quarter that we've seen. And so that's something that, we definitely need to consider. But to your point about weather, I mean, I know I'm guilty. I know I spent time working out in my yard today as my quote unquote fun, event for the weekend was me doing yard work. And I definitely had projects in mind of, oh man, I can't wait until I can get some of these things, or maybe I ought to start considering patio furniture. And we're seeing that translate in tweets as well. We're not, this is just one anecdote, but on the mass scale of Twitter mentions, people are definitely trying to get ideas and trying to find ways to spend time in their home and be outside without breaking these social distancing rules.
See, Megan, that's how you and I are very similar. You like to get out in the backyard and do yard work, and I like to hire people to go in my backyard and do yard work. So it's very similar. Yard work's getting done. It's just how it's being paid for and done. I mean, I think it's very similar, but all of it means more demand, more things getting done to your home, more, that could be more tools, more rakes, shovels, all those things, all coming from Home Depot and Lowe's. So both of these firms are doing extremely well going. Megan, last thoughts as we look for how big this is going to be, how popular Home Depot and Lowe's are going to be, and how long it will last in this popularity.
It's definitely something that we're going to continue to monitor to see how this pace, if it can hold as strong as it's been, if demand holds true even through the spring. But these are names that when we're looking and we're thinking about, investing and from that perspective, whenever we're putting our shopping list together, these definitely have our attention because we know that they're providing a service that consumers really want and really need right now. And so we want to make we're seeing, will people stay on long term? Will they continue to engage with these companies? I think that remains to be seen. But right now, they're definitely, they're doing what people want. They're becoming a solution and meeting these demands of consumers. And so that's definitely a positive whenever I know I'm putting together my own shopping list.
Yeah, this is going to be, as we get deeper and deeper into this coronavirus staycation, as we call it, what we're going to work through on this show is the winners and losers that come from that. We already talked about one today with AMD and Intel as people upgrade their computers. I mean, this is the other type of upgrade to your home, which is upgrading the surroundings where you live. And it could be making a home office or upgrading the home office. There's so many things that Americans can and will be doing to pass the time. Megan Brantley, Vice President of Research for LikeFolio, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Kevin. It's been so good to talk with you.